Hello, 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 coaches and leaders. I am here with Jessica Werner, and we're going to talk about why most leaders don't actually know what well-being looks like in their schools and how collecting the right data around well-being, which I'm like, my mind is blown a little bit, and I'm so excited to talk about like what does that data look like. So when we use data, that can dramatically strengthen teacher retention. So we're going to talk about well-being and data and retention, which I'm sure those of you listening is probably a hot topic in your school. So before we start, Jessica, I wanted to welcome you to the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm so excited.
Yeah, this is going to be an awesome conversation. If you could share with everyone, what do you do now in the world of leadership and education?
So, I am the founder of a company called North Shore Learning, and we're based in Minneapolis, Minnesota, but we work around the world. We have school partners worldwide. And our main goal is just helping schools support and retain great teachers.
Hmm.
The UNESCO has said that by 2030, we're going to be 44 million teachers short worldwide. So our goal is to help decrease that number because that's a really scary statistic.
I love it. The saying I've been saying for a while, the phrase I've been saying for a while is helping teachers stay and thrive. And that makes me
Yes,
think about that.
that is exactly it.
Yeah, we want to shift from surviving to thriving.
Right.
So, the first thing I want to just like jump right in here. I'm so fascinated. What are the biggest indicators that leaders think they understand staff well-being but actually don't? And how can they start to gather real meaningful data around that instead of relying on assumptions?
Right. So actually I can use some personal examples. Right now we are in the process of touring schools where my daughter will go to high school and also where my son will go to middle school. And we're in one district, but we're considering other districts, other schools, etc. So as a touring parent, this is one of my questions that I ask admin. I say, what is teacher well-being like at your school? And most of them know me. They know that I know something about education, that I work in education. But they probably don't predict this question as part of their tour for
Yeah.
their kid because I'm not like, what were your test scores? What's your proficiency? No, I'm like, tell me about your teachers and well-being. So I probably surprised them a little, but usually the type of answer I get is everybody seems pretty happy. Like they seem great. Or, this year we didn't lose a lot of people.
Mhm.
So I'm hearing things like we don't lose a lot of people. People seem really happy. In principle speak, I I think this means nobody's in my office like having a breakdown,
Mhm.
or that hasn't happened for a while. Um, and that's the anecdotal evidence of like nobody is here crying. Everybody must be fine, but it's not data informed at all.
Mhm.
So one of the and this is really common. This is just really common because principals wear a million hats,
Mhm.
and having their thumb on teacher well-being is one of them. And most of the people I work with want that to be a more centralized part of their job,
Mhm.
but it's just not because you have to run a school. So I say if your answer to that question is similar to what I just said, because they seem to be doing okay, because nobody's taken mental health leave recently, I encourage people to go actually collect some data. So, actual data where you ask direct questions around well being and job satisfaction, um, to get some kind of baseline. Like, let's have a baseline for what it looks like. And then we know when we need to modify, or we know what we're doing well and we need to share with all of our school friends, but starting by actually getting baseline data. And that can be really simple. I tell people a Google form, this is all you need. We don't need anything fancy. I usually recommend if you're starting to collect data from teachers about well-being for the first time, I don't necessarily recommend it comes from an email in the admin office. So maybe from the school counselor, maybe from an outsider. I am happy to send your school teachers a survey measuring job satisfaction and well-being, because even though usually these things are anonymous, people still are really nervous. They still just they get nervous because they're so used to being evaluated. They
Yeah.
just get nervous that you're asking me this question, but it's really a trick question. So have your school counselor send it. Have I don't recommend a board member either. I would have somebody objective. Like, and that's the beauty of the outside consultant. Like, it's somebody totally objective. But start asking one or two questions. It can start with one or two questions, but that's where you start actually knowing, okay, this is where people are right now.
Yeah. Yeah. So, the next thing I'm curious about is what do schools look like when they have high retention, right? Like strong teacher retention. Like what data patterns do you see? What are kind of early signs that sets them apart from other schools?
Yeah, a key indicator I look for is attendance.
Hmm.
And this is for teachers and students. I look for attendance patterns. I look, and I know like there are a lot of reasons why we might not be able to show up to work. We have very full lives, we get sick, but things like illness, um, perpetual illness, that is an indicator that well-being
Hmm.
might be compromised.
Yeah.
Or seeing, wow, it looks like every week um, somebody from the middle school team has been gone. And actually, this happened. My daughter in middle school was the one who told me, and she has 7 classes. And she said, Mom, every week, at least 2 of my teachers are gone.
Mm.
Every single week. And so, looking at your sub data, looking at your absences, this is a really easy one that you're already tracking that can be a huge green flag or red flag.
Hmm. And what are I'm just like what are schools with higher retention? What are they doing differently?
Yeah, it's a great question and it's a really complex
That's what I
question.
hesitated because I was like, this is a complex question. I'm just gonna throw at her.
It's the question though. And
Yeah.
I want to say, first of all, your school doesn't have to be a certain thing to do this well. You
Yeah.
don't have to be a school um, with a highly engaged PTA. You don't have to be a school in this region. It can be any school.
Hmm.
It really starts with a willingness from the school leaders, administrators, to start doing what we're talking about, measuring this kind of data and offering interventions when necessary. So it can be any school. I think I hear a lot of times we can't afford that. We can't afford to let blank happen.
Hmm.
But we work in teeny tiny schools that find ways to make sure people feel supported. So the schools that are retaining the best teachers and the most teachers, they have some kind of framework for support in place for teachers anytime they ask them to do something new, which, as
Mm.
you know, is often. So,
Yes.
kind of like I tell people, whatever it is that you're looking at, we need to implement blank. On the other side, have another column, and this is the support I'm going to offer while this is implemented. And
Mm.
just make sure both sides have data in them. Because I think what happens is even the little things, right? So the little things get piled on people all day long. Even considering those little things like, oh, I'm going to ask them to cover recess duty because our paras are out.
Hmm.
Okay, how am I going to support the teacher for the 30 minutes they just lost?
Hmm.
And so just thinking really through those things, what do we need done that I'm going to ask of the teacher, and how am I or my team going to support that?
I love the proactive stance versus reactive, and I definitely do that work around resistance with schools and talk about the time it takes, right? You're talking about money, but also people worry about time. Well, I don't have
Oh,
time for
yeah.
that. And my thing is, it's going to take time either way. You're either going to be proactive and say, okay, we're asking them to do something extra. Let's make a plan before we ask for the well-being. Or and take the time to do that because that does take time,
Hmm.
or deal with the fallout of teachers calling out sick all the time,
Right.
right? Of what it looks like for teachers to not have strong well-being, and be reactive about that. Either way, it takes time.
Right. And I would add, and I don't like saying this, but either way, it also takes money
Hmm.
because either you're finding ways to invest and money is time, like time is money. And you're putting forth the investment and the initial support, or you're losing teachers. You're
Hmm.
paying, I think the data is between $12,000 and $24,000. It is the cost
Yep.
to recruit and retain one new staff member.
Hmm.
That is expensive.
Hmm.
So, like you said, either the time is happening in advance and or
Money.
money, but
Hmm.
either way, yeah,
Hmm.
considering that for either way.
I love that you said that. And I just want to like reiterate this for those listening. When we have high teacher turnover, it costs a lot of money.
Yeah, it's
And
really
so,
expensive.
and if we're just going to name this, right? You and I sell services and we cost money to bring us in. And districts can either spend the money if there is high teacher turnover, your district is spending a lot of money recruiting and training new teachers, right? We can actually be proactive and reduce the number of teachers leaving with some pretty simple things, right? Um,
Right,
so I just want to reiterate that it costs money either way,
right.
proactively or reactively. I love that.
Definitely. And all that is if you can find the teacher you want to fill the spot when you have an opening. Because right
Mhm.
now the pipeline is very dry.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, just being able to count on, oh, I'm sure I'll be able to hire for this position. A lot of our partners just, that's not a given anymore.
Hmm. And quality is different than quantity.
Oh, right.
What we're starting to see is like high quality teachers and principals leaving. You and I
Right.
were talking about that. Um, and replacing someone is not, and everyone knows this that's listening to, right? It's not the same thing. Body in, body out, right? We want to keep our folks.
Yes.
So I'm curious if there's a leader or coach listening to this that wants to get a clearer understanding of well-being in their schools. What's one data collection move they could make tomorrow to get that clearer sense?
Yeah, I'm going to give you two things. The first one really is the Google form.
Hmm.
It's that quick survey. Um, it's anonymous, it's quick, it's fast, you get a lot of data. The second is the informal conversations, the
Hmm.
informal check-in in the hall that's 2 minutes and not related to academics or teaching. And that helps people who are willing and wanting right away to start learning more about the state of well-being is just to start asking.
Yep. And I think, someone that talks to people as an outside consultant going in, and sometimes I can feel the like, it's okay, it'll be fine. It is what it is. Like I hear the toxic positivity, this too shall pass, to say it's okay to not be okay.
Right.
Right? We have to give permission for people to share that they're not okay. And I think our teachers often are wanting to seem okay when they're actually not. But also to be okay with complaints, right? To not dismiss or like to not make it not okay. That was a double negative. Um, we want to make it okay for people to complain,
Mm-hmm.
and then move through it, right? To be honest first.
That's the beauty of collecting data is you get all of it. So
Mm-hmm.
I find that people are not reluctant
Mm-hmm.
to receive a survey and fill out well-being. And I'll look at the data with the principals, and we'll get a lot of data, right? So we'll see people saying the traffic is too bad and the weather is terrible. And these are all things that impact their overall experience of like job satisfaction. And then we know, okay, good. you got to say it out loud. You got to name it. That is a problem. And it's not under the bucket of things we can control at school. But I think just giving people the opportunity to say, tell us all the things is really is people appreciate it. They appreciate being able to talk. And then you see the data and you think, okay, I had two people complaining about traffic. Um, and these are true stories, by the way. This has come up in data. But I also had 35 people who mentioned workload.
Mhm.
So this is important. I'm gonna dig into workload a little bit more.
My last question is where do you see school leaders unintentionally sabotaging retention? Thinking about maybe they're measuring the wrong things, or even like what I call the shoulds, like they think people shouldn't feel a certain way. Where do you see them unintentionally sabotaging retention and or well-being?
Oh, I have so many answers. The shoulds are, oh my gosh, every teacher has a backpack of shoulds on their
Hmm.
backs. And administrators
Hmm.
also. I don't know. I think like sabotage is strong. I think there's a
Yeah.
lot of it's unintentional though. So
Yeah.
just I mean rethinking what we're measuring, period. What are we measuring in schools?
Hmm.
We obviously have a lot of student data. What kind of teacher data do we actually have?
Hmm.
Um, and starting there, because if we don't have much, that's an answer right there. Let's start collecting some. Also, as we said earlier, there are so many new exciting initiatives out there. It's just like being a kid in a candy shop. You walk in and you think, oh, we should be doing that ed tech and that AI and that thing and all the things. And and those would be good things. Like things that help teachers do their jobs better are great for morale and job satisfaction. I guess the sabotage would be, like we said earlier, if you introduce the thing without the support column attached to it, no matter what the thing is, no matter how useful the thing is, how much it's going to make the teacher's life easier. If we don't also account for our own role in implementation and support, that's where we fall short, I think.
Yeah. Yeah. And being willing to see their experience, to really be with that's their experience and that's valid, even if it's not only not our experience, if it wasn't our experience as a teacher, or if we don't think they should feel that way, doesn't matter. We
Right.
need to look at what is their experience, and that's where we need to start.
And two, just finally, I would say remembering that everybody in school has a whole life outside of school.
Hmm.
And it's not always easier. So a lot of people have a lot of challenges, with their own kids with special needs. Or I keep hearing this over and over in schools. Many of our teachers are in this sandwich generation where after school they take care of their own ailing parents and their own children. And that's on top of being a full-time teacher. And I think just remembering the full story for everyone and also acknowledging you probably don't know it. You probably do not know the full story.
Hmm.
Um, but there's a reason why you get resistance, as you know. And just remembering we have more in our brains that need our attention than just what we do during the school day. And I think that's something a lot of teachers wish their administrators knew about them,
Hmm.
what they carry outside of the building
Hmm.
that we don't necessarily know.
One thing that I really love about your work, and it's very similar to mine, is that you're not taking well-being as this one thing. Oh, well-being, it's when you get data, you can see which elements are
Yeah,
impacting well-being. Some schools have different elements than others, so we can approach and do things that address those elements, right? And resistance is the same thing. Resistance isn't one thing. We need to actually have strategies and structures in place that address why the resistance happens, why they have low well-being, not
right.
see the generic strategies drive me nuts. Someone was recently complaining to me about they have a mindfulness consultant coming in every month and they're so frustrated. They're like, mindfulness isn't the issue at our school. And it's really frustrating, especially when we're trying to address it and we're doing the wrong things because we're either not getting data or getting the
Right.
wrong data.
Yeah, I just have one more example. There's a school I work in where the teachers they they report to school 2 weeks early, and they have two very intensive weeks of training and pre-workshops, much more than most of our other school partners. But what they do is, and this is the key, and this is why I think I was there during these 2 weeks. I didn't hear a single complaint about the time being in workshops. They offer on-site childcare.
Oh, that's
So
awesome.
again, I will ask you to do these things that you're gonna be happy, that we learned about the reading curriculum. But I'm also going to acknowledge that you have kids at home who aren't in school, and so you know what they did. This didn't even cost them money. They had some staff members who had older kids. The older kids volunteered
That's
as
awesome.
sitters for the younger kids, and I think that is easy. Like that
Mhm.
was an easy fix. And so 2 weeks, full day, all day trainings. Not I didn't hear a single complaint.
That's awesome. I love that. I love it. That's really creative. All right. Well, we have got to wrap up. And so I'd love you to share with everyone where can they learn more about you and what you do with North Shore Learning?
I would say I would love to have you come to our website, northshorelearning.org. And you can see kind of the buckets where we work, the geography of where we work, and we have a lot of freebies. We host free webinars monthly at least, and even within the site, you'll find different free resources that you can use in your schools.
I love it so much. Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing all your expertise around this. This is super helpful.
Thanks for having me.